Something deeply troubling has become routine in the United States. It's not the economy, not inflation, not even the border crisis. It's something far more corrosive: moral degradation disguised as tolerance. In recent days, the country witnessed yet another episode, revealing just how far the American political elite is willing to go to protect its allies. A series of racist, vile, and offensive messages exchanged in a group of young Republican leaders was exposed by the press. And instead of outrage, what came from the highest echelons of power was understanding. Vice President JD Vance, in an interview, treated the case as if it were just boys being boys, downplaying comments that praised Hitler, mocked black people, and trivialized rape. This is not just a political misstep, it's a symptom of a moral sickness eating away at the essence of America. The country that once stood as a symbol of courage, faith, and merit is now drowning in excuses, relativism, and a dangerous culture of impunity. The phrase, "they're just young," has become the new refuge of the weak, a disguise for moral cowardice. When the vice president of a powerful nation suggests that racism is merely a phase of youth, he isn't defending young people, he's normalizing evil. And this behavior doesn't arise by accident. It reflects the environment created by years of a government that prefers indoctrination over education, relativism over accountability, and erasure over correction. The American left has turned morality into a disposable accessory. What was once a moral crime is now free speech, as long as it comes from the right group. But when a conservative speaks, it's censorship, it's hate, it's dangerous speech. This hypocrisy is eroding the foundations of the country. JD Vance's reaction is merely a mirror of Biden's America, an America that forgives the indefensible if the perpetrator has the right ideology. It's the same pattern we see in universities, on social media, and even in corporations. The double standard of morality. When a progressive makes a mistake, it's a misunderstanding. When a conservative opens their mouth, it's extremism. This inequality in judgment is what destroys the sense of justice and turns society into a minefield of hypocrisy. While the government talks about inclusion, divisions deepen. While they promise tolerance, hatred grows, and always against the same target. The average American who works hard, believes in God, and loves their country. This citizen, once the backbone of the United States, is now treated as a villain. Meanwhile, political elites treat moral degeneration as something funny, fleeting, just kids being kids. It's not. It's a symptom of a country losing its sense of right and wrong. The episode of these messages isn't about a group of reckless young people. It's about a system that has grown accustomed to covering up wrongdoing. It's about leaders who are afraid to say, "This is wrong," because the truth offends their allies. It's about a government that claims to fight hate, but does nothing when hate comes from the right side. It's about an America that has forgotten that freedom without responsibility is just a path to chaos. The vice president had a chance to take a firm stand to show that morality still matters, but he chose to deflect, attack the press, and defend the offenders. And this is the portrait of weak leadership, submissive to a government that no longer sees values, only conveniences. It's the portrait of a White House more concerned with protecting ideologies than principles. If the American government believes it can continue treating evil as a youthful mistake, it is mistaken. Because when error is protected, it grows. And when it grows in power, it becomes policy. And that's exactly what's happening in today's United States. The way the American government has handled cases like this reveals much about what really happens behind the scenes of power. When JD Vance tries to justify the unjustifiable, he isn't just protecting young people who made mistakes. He's protecting an entire system that feeds on hypocrisy. It's the same system that now dominates Washington. An empire of empty rhetoric, broken moral promises, and politicians who only remember the word ethics when they can use it against their opponents. And that's why scandals like this no longer shock anyone. The American people have been numbed. For decades, the average American believed their country was guided by solid values: hard work, responsibility, faith, and family. But what we see today is a grotesque inversion of these principles. The current government, led by Joe Biden, sells itself as a symbol of unity and progress, but what it delivers is disorder and relativism. While the country faces a deep moral crisis, the White House is more concerned with speeches about gender diversity and inclusive language than restoring national character. And it's in this leadership vacuum that figures like JD Vance feel comfortable treating racism and hatred as harmless jokes. What makes this even more revolting is the reaction of the media itself. The American press, which should hold power accountable, has become an extension of the Democratic Party. When scandals involve left-wing allies, the silence is deafening. But let a conservative speak out, and the entire country plunges into moral collapse. This selectivity destroys the credibility of journalism and, at the same time, fuels impunity. That's why moral corruption thrives, because no one has the courage to call evil by its name. While JD Vance says young people make mistakes, American families watch their values come under attack every day. Schools teach children to be ashamed of their own history. Churches are ridiculed, free speech is policed, and those who dare to question this are labeled extremists. The same government that downplays racism in private chats persecutes citizens who dare to speak of faith, patriotism, or secure borders. This is no coincidence, it's by design. The culture of selective forgiveness is one of the most dangerous weapons of modern progressivism. It turns serious mistakes into learning moments only when the culprit belongs to the right ideological group. And this creates a society divided between those who are allowed to err and those who are condemned for existing. The conservative citizen, who pays taxes and obeys the law, is constantly accused of intolerance, while the truly intolerant receive applause for hiding behind politically correct rhetoric. The Biden administration has proven itself a master of this manipulation. It presents itself as the restorer of American morality, but its actions say otherwise. The country is experiencing an explosion of crime, social disorder, and economic crises, while the political elite pretends the problem is a lack of empathy. The streets of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York are overrun by drugs, violence, and misery, the direct result of failed policies the government insists on calling humane. And yet, when a case like JD Vance's emerges, the priority isn't to solve it, but to suppress it. This complacency has become the true poison of America. Power has grown accustomed to protecting error and punishing those who denounce it. And this creates an entire generation of politicians and influencers who learn early that what matters isn't character, but narrative. If you speak nicely, everything is forgiven. If you repeat the progressive mantras, your sins are erased. But if you dare to defend traditional values, you will be publicly crucified. This is the America Joe Biden has helped build, a nation that applauds deviation and punishes virtue. In the end, the biggest problem isn't the messages themselves, it's what they reveal about the soul of American politics. They show a country where error is no longer the exception, but part of the machinery. They show a government that prefers to protect the system rather than the truth. And they show an elite that, in the name of tolerance, is destroying everything that once made America a moral beacon for the world. The racist messages and JD Vance's reaction are just the tip of a much deeper iceberg. They reveal the moral collapse of a nation that was once the beacon of freedom and now lives in the shadows of conformism. What was once a source of shame is now treated as an innocent mistake. And what once demanded accountability is now resolved with a rehearsed apology in front of the cameras. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It was cultivated, nourished, and promoted by a government that turned mediocrity into virtue and weakness into state policy. The Biden administration represents the pinnacle of this decline, a government that talks about rebuilding the soul of America, but does the opposite. It destroys its most fundamental values. It promises equality, but sows division. It speaks of compassion, but turns a blind eye to the real suffering of millions of Americans. And when cases like JD Vance's arise, the White House's complicit silence says it all. There is no genuine outrage. There is political calculation. There is fear of losing support, fear of alienating ideological groups that now wield more power than the people themselves. America's moral decay isn't just in the words exchanged in a private chat. It's in the universities that teach hatred for American history. It's in the media that manipulates facts to protect allies and destroy opponents. It's in the politicians who bow to vocal minorities while ignoring the families who sustain the country with hard work and faith. And above all, it's in a government that has lost the ability to distinguish right from wrong. JD Vance is not an isolated case. He is a symptom, a reflection of a political elite that believes it can play with public morality without consequences. He talks about kids being kids, but what he really means is, our allies can do no wrong. It's the same rhetoric that, in the hands of the American left, has become an excuse for all abuses, from social media to the judicial system. An entire generation of leaders is learning that error pays, as long as it serves the powerful. Meanwhile, the average American, the one who works, believes in the Constitution, and upholds Christian values, is treated as outdated, backward, dangerous. The inversion is total. Those who fight for principles are the enemy. Those who destroy morality are the heroes. Progressivism has created a new aristocracy made up of politicians, journalists, and billionaires who believe they own the truth. They dictate what can be said, what can be thought, what can be forgiven. And the Biden administration is the great conductor of this orchestra, disguised as democracy. But what they don't understand is that the patience of the American people has its limits. The real America, the one of families who wake up early, pray before meals, and believe in merit and honesty, is tired of being humiliated, tired of seeing criminals treated as victims and victims treated as culprits. Tired of seeing racism used as a political tool while morality is thrown in the trash. The people want justice, not hypocrisy lessons from Washington. JD Vance's reaction and the government's silence prove that the political elite has completely lost touch with reality. They live in a universe where everything is permitted as long as the appearance of virtue is maintained. But ordinary Americans see. They see what's happening, and they feel their country is being betrayed from within. The danger isn't in the offensive words of a private chat, but in the public indifference of those who should defend the truth. America needs to wake up before the lie becomes the definitive rule. Because when political power decides that error is acceptable, it paves the way for something much worse, and that's exactly what's happening now. The country that once inspired the world with its moral strength is becoming a hostage to moral cowardice. A government that lacks the courage to condemn evil is a government that encourages it. History is watching, and in the end, it won't be the scandal of the messages that defines this generation. It will be how the government responded to them. And what we've seen is a deafening silence, a faithful portrait of the decay of a leadership that no longer knows right from wrong and prefers to remain silent in the face of immorality. The future of America depends on a simple but powerful choice: to keep accepting excuses or to demand character again. Because when power decides that right is relative, freedom ceases to be a right and becomes a memory.